Good Friday, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Conversational Daily News. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Well, we made it to the end of another week and another month. We're saying goodbye to April today. We, of course, have your news headlines coming up. We also have the truth of the day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. And in today's entertainment spotlight, you being part of my conversation with author and poet Manu Adisa. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversational Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Friday headlines. In national news, U.S. recovery from pandemic recession is showing momentum. Powered by consumers and fueled by government aid, the U.S. economy is achieving a remarkably fast recovery from the recession that ripped through the nation last year on the heels of the coronavirus and cost tens of millions of Americans their jobs and businesses. The economy grew last quarter at a vigorous 6.4% annual rate, the government said on Thursday, and expectations are that the current quarter are even better. The number of people seeking unemployment aid, a rough reflection of layoffs last week, reached its lowest point since the pandemic struck. And the National Association of Realtors said Thursday that more Americans signed contracts to buy homes in March, reflecting a strong housing market as summer approaches. Economists say that widespread vaccinations and declining viral cases, the reopening of more businesses, a huge infusion of federal aid, and healthy job gains should help sustain steady growth. For 2021 as a whole, they expect the economy to expand at about 7%, which would mark the fastest calendar year growth since 1984. In March, U.S. employers added 916,000 jobs, the biggest burst of hiring since August of 2020. Meantime, retail spending has surged, manufacturing output is up, and consumer confidence has reached its highest point since the pandemic began. The speed of the rebounding economy has been particularly striking given the scope of damage the pandemic inflicted on it beginning in March of last year. With businesses all but shut down, the economy contracted at a record annual pace of 31% in the April-June quarter of last year before rebounding sharply in the subsequent months. The renewed strength in the United States, the largest economy, is helping lead the developed world out of recession. In Europe, for instance, a recovery has lagged because of smaller government aid and slower vaccination rollouts that have prolonged lockdowns. For all the U.S. economy gains, it still has a long way to go, says the Associated Press. More than 8 million jobs remain lost to the pandemic, and the recovery remains sharply uneven. Most college-educated and white-collar employees have been able to work from home over the past year. Many have even built up savings and expanded their wealth from rising home values and a record-setting stock market, which has rocketed more than 80% from March of last year. In more national news, Biden turns to Georgia to begin pitch for huge spending bill. In the closing days of his presidential campaign, Joe Biden swung through the Georgia town where Franklin Delano Roosevelt coped with polio, making the case that government can be a force for good. Now 100 days after taking office, Biden has returned to the state, trying to sell voters on his ambitious vision. The president hoped on Thursday to rally supporters behind his $4 trillion plans to rebuild America's aging infrastructure and vastly expand the government's social safety net. As the nation takes steps to move past the devastating pandemic, he argues that now is a time for the government to spend more on its citizens and raise taxes on the extremely wealthy to cover the cost. The Georgia trip is part of an effort to gain momentum for the massive and expensive agenda Biden articulated during his first address to a joint session of Congress. It's a dramatic shift from nearly 4 decades of politics in which leaders from both parties have spoken of a need to contain government. In more national news, an unusual coalition as Supreme Court rules for immigrant. An unusual coalition of Supreme Court justices joined Thursday to rule in favor of an immigrant fighting deportation in a case, as the court said, turned on the meaning of the shortest word aid. By a 6-3 vote, the court sided with a Guatemalan immigrant who has been in the United States since 2005. 8 years later, he received a notice to appear at a deportation hearing, but this notice did not include a date or time. 2 months after that, a second notice instructed him when and where to show up. By sending notice of a deportation hearing, the government can stop the clock on immigrants hoping to show they have been in the United States for at least 10 straight years. The 10-year mark makes it easier under federal law to ask to be allowed to remain in the country. And finally, in entertainment news, The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge marked their 10th year anniversary together on Thursday by releasing photographs and a video offering an image of domestic bliss, a contrast to the tensions that have gripped Britain's royal family in recent weeks. 2 photos showed Prince William, second in line to the throne, and Kate Middleton in complementary shades of blue. A video released later showed the family at play, replete with their smiling children, walking near the sea. William married his former university flatmate on April 29, 2011, at Westminster Abbey in a ceremony televised globally. They have 3 children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's now time for the Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich. Mary Ellen, it's all yours.
Hi, this is Mary Ellen with your Truth of the Day. Use your blessings to aid others. There are many ways to aid people who may be in need. One way is to share your material possessions. When you share your possessions, you come to the understanding that the true joy of ownership lies in using what you own to improve the lives of others. A possession that sits untouched or isn't enjoyed is of little value to anyone. Sharing what you own helps you to make the most of your material resources by bringing joy to others. You feel gratified that your possessions are being well used and appreciated. Sharing your possessions is only one of the many ways you can use your blessings to aid others. Bring joy to others through sharing your material possessions or one of your many other talented gifts from God, and share them with joy. And remember to enjoy your day.
Manu Adisa is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight right here on Conversations Daily News. For Conversations Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with the Entertainment Spotlight. Author and poet Manu Adisa joined me recently on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about his new book, My Rhinoceros Woman, and what it's been like for him to share his gift with the world. Here's a bit of our conversation.
So let's talk about where we are now, Manu. I saw on Instagram the picture and video of you with the book. What was it like for you to go from having the idea for it to actually holding it in your hands?
It was a struggle. It was a struggle at first. I wrote some poems like years ago, and I've always wanted to publish my own book of poetry. And I finally decided to go ahead and do it. I stopped procrastinating and sat down and wrote like a couple of pages a day and put it all together. And I did it, and to see it in print, it was exciting. It was very exciting. And to know that what I'm doing is a good thing and sharing my thoughts on things is very valuable to me, because I want to help somebody, and, especially our people. I want to help them to understand that there are certain things that we need to know that we're not really touching upon with the so-called regular education.
Right.
So it was a blessing to see my book in print.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning in to this edition of Conversations Daily News. We'll be back to you guys on Monday with more news, Truth of the Day with Mary Ellen Ciganovich, and of course your Entertainment Spotlight. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Let's make it a great one.